You think you're tough, sweetheart? Let's see how tough you really are when nobody's watching.
The words hang in the night air. 5 shadows close in around a single woman in the Burger King parking lot on Industrial Boulevard. Metal pipes gleam under the fluorescent lights. The body camera mounted on her chest captures everything. Timestamp frozen at 11:47 and 13 seconds p.m. March 14th. Jenna Brooks doesn't flinch. Her voice cuts through the darkness, steady as steel. One kick dropped 5 men, but the truth will bury the one who sent them. The man in front, Rick Dawson, auto shop owner, 2 prior assault convictions, lunges first. Jenna pivots. 1 front kick to his knee. The crack echoes. He crumples. The other 4 hesitate for half a heartbeat. Then they charge. 47 seconds later, all 5 are on the ground. The body camera catches every moment, every word, every calculated movement of a woman who spent 2 tours in Iraq and came home to flip burgers on the night shift, because single mothers with medical bills don't get many choices. But Rick's words loop in Jenna's mind as sirens wail in the distance when nobody's watching, except somebody was watching. The camera red light blinked weakly. 4% battery remaining. Nearly didn't make it. Nearly. A countdown appears in the corner of the screen. T-minus 96 hours. The clock is running. 8 minutes later, a patrol car pulls into the parking lot. Not 15 minutes like the standard route from Riverside Police Station to this location. Not 18 minutes like traffic patterns suggest. 8 minutes. Lieutenant Brad Sullivan, 18 years on the force, community hero, mentor to veterans through the department's outreach program, steps out. His face registers concern. He moves quickly to Jenna, who's sitting on the curb, camera still recording. "Jenna," he says, kneeling beside her. His voice carries that paternal warmth she's heard dozens of times over the past 3 years since she joined his veterans group. "You did the right thing, calling me first." She nods. The camera captures the exchange. Brad doesn't seem to notice the red light, or perhaps he doesn't care. He's been her rock since she moved to Riverside, the person who helped her find this job, the person who checked in on Emma when Jenna worked doubles, the person who spoke at city events about protecting women in the community, the person who arrived impossibly fast tonight. Another car pulls up. Not a patrol vehicle, a silver Lexus. Glenn Crawford emerges, adjusting his cufflinks. At 52, he owns 7 Burger King franchises across 3 counties, city council member, Chamber of Commerce board. He carries a gleaming franchise achievement trophy in one hand, the kind corporate gives to operators who exceed metrics. He sets it on the hood of Brad's patrol car with a soft thunk. Looks at Jenna. Smiles. "You think you're who? Wonder Woman?" His tone is light, almost playful. But his eyes aren't smiling. "Fighting off 5 men in my parking lot. That's going to be quite the story." Jenna meets his gaze. "It's going to be exactly that. A story." Brad stands, positioning himself between them. "Glenn, this is a crime scene. You need to step back. My property. My employee." Glenn doesn't move. "I'm concerned. For her safety. For the company's liability. You understand?" The camera sees it all, records it all, uploads it all in real time to an encrypted Canadian server. A habit Jenna developed in combat zones where evidence had a way of disappearing. The footage streams through cellular backup, bypassing local networks entirely. Brad knows about the camera. Jenna told him months ago when she first started wearing it. Post-traumatic stress protocol, she'd explained. helps her feel safe during the lonely hours between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. when the night shift ends and the world feels too big and too dark. What Brad doesn't know is that the camera never stops, that the GPS tracker in her pocket logs every location, every movement, that the voice recorder sewn into her work vest captures audio even when the camera isn't visible. That Jenna Brooks learned in Fallujah that the difference between living and dying often comes down to who has proof. And tonight, she has proof. The paramedics arrive, check her vitals. No injuries beyond bruised knuckles. Rick and his crew are already being loaded into ambulances, 2 with concussions, 1 with a broken arm, Rick himself with a shattered kneecap and a fractured ego. Brad sends them off with the other officers. Then he turns to Jenna, lowering his voice. "Listen," he says, glancing at Glenn, who's talking to someone on his phone 30 feet away. "You need to be smart about this. These men, they'll lawyer up. They'll say you attacked them. You're going to need every advantage." "I have the footage," Jenna says. "Good, that's good." Brad nods. "But here's the thing. Chain of custody matters. If the defense can argue your footage was tampered with, stored improperly, anything, it gets thrown out. You should let me handle the evidence. I'll make sure it's logged correctly. Protected." Something in his voice makes Jenna's training kick in. The same instinct that kept her alive when patrols went wrong and friendly faces turned out to be threats. "I'll think about it," she says. Brad's jaw tightens for a fraction of a second. Then the warmth returns. "Of course. You've been through trauma tonight. We'll talk tomorrow." He drives her home, helps her to the door, reminds her to call if she needs anything. Emma is staying with Jenna's neighbor, an arrangement they have for nights when Jenna works late or situations like this arise. Jenna watches Brad's taillights disappear down the street. Then she goes inside, pulls out her laptop, and checks the backup server. The footage is there. 47 seconds of crystal-clear evidence. Rick's voice. "Boss says you talk too much." "Boss," she rewinds, listens again. Rick wasn't robbing her, wasn't after her wallet or her keys. He knew who she was. He said her name before the attack, though it's muffled in the audio. And he mentioned a boss. Jenna's been working at the Burger King on Industrial Boulevard for 14 months. In that time, 7 other women have quit. All of them worked night shifts. All of them left without explanation, despite needing the money desperately. Single mothers, students, women with few options. She'd asked Glenn about it once. He'd shrugged, said turnover was normal in fast food, said people weren't cut out for the work. But Jenna remembers their faces, the way they wouldn't meet her eyes in those final shifts, the tremor in their voices, the rush to get out before darkness fell. Jenna isn't walking this path alone, and neither are you. If this story is reaching you, hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and pressing the thanks button below helps keep these stories of justice alive. It's a small action that creates big impact. And I'm curious, where are you watching from right now? What country are you calling home while following Jenna's journey? Drop a comment. I'd love to know how far this community reaches. Because what happens next in Riverside is about to show that distance doesn't matter when it comes to standing up for what's right. The clock reads 2:17 a.m. when Jenna opens a new document on her laptop. She titles it Pattern Recognition. Then she starts typing everything she remembers about those 7 women. Names, dates they quit, locations of their homes, any conversations she overheard. By 4 a.m., a picture emerges. 6 of the 7 lived within a 3-mile radius of the Burger King. All worked closing shifts. all left within 48 hours of some incident they refused to discuss. And all of them, every single one, worked for Glenn Crawford Franchises. Jenna pulls up traffic camera footage. She has access through a friend who freelances for the city's transportation department. It's not strictly legal, but combat teaches you that rules matter less than results when lives are at stake. She finds Rick's vehicle, a black Ford F-150 with custom rims. She tracks it backward through time. 4 months ago. 3.5 months ago. 3 months ago. The truck appears near each location where the 7 women lived. Different times, different dates, but always within a week of when they quit. Jenna's phone buzzes. A text from Brad. Checking in. How are you holding up? Remember what I said about the evidence? I can help protect it. She stares at the message. Brad arrived 8 minutes after she called 911. The standard patrol route takes 15 to 18 minutes depending on traffic. At 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, with minimal traffic, it should have taken at least 12 minutes. Where was Brad when she called? She pulls up the GPS log from her tracker, finds the timestamp. Her phone pinged the nearest tower when she dialed 911. She can see the location data. Then she cross-references with Brad's patrol zone schedules, which are public record for transparency purposes. Brad wasn't in his patrol zone. He wasn't even close. According to the schedule, he should have been across town. Yet he arrived 8 minutes after the call. Which means he was already nearby. Which means, no. Jenna stops herself. Brad is her mentor, her friend, the person who helped her when she was drowning in medical bills and couldn't find work that accommodated Emma's school schedule. He vouched for her, convinced Glenn to hire her despite her PTSD diagnosis. Coincidences happen. Bad optics don't mean bad intentions. But in Fallujah, coincidences got people killed. Jenna doesn't respond to Brad's text. Instead, she creates a backup of the backup. Downloads the footage to 3 encrypted USB drives. Mails one to her sister in Oregon, with instructions not to open it unless something happens. Hides another in Emma's school locker combination lockbox, a place no one would think to look. Keeps the third with her at all times. Then she calls Glenn Crawford's office, leaves a voicemail, professional, calm, requests a meeting to discuss the incident and her continued employment. At 7:30 a.m., her phone rings. Glenn's lawyer, not Glenn himself. Ms. Brooks, the lawyer says, I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Crawford. He's prepared to offer you 2 weeks paid leave while the incident is investigated. He's also concerned about potential liability and would like you to sign a statement limiting the franchise's exposure. Limiting exposure to what? Jenna asks. To claims that the incident occurred due to inadequate security on the premises. You understand? Litigation in today's environment can be costly for small business owners. Small business owners who own 7 franchises and sit on city council. A pause. Mr. Crawford's success doesn't negate his legal obligations. Will you agree to the statement? I'll think about it. Ms. Brooks, I should inform you that Mr. Crawford is also prepared to pursue legal action if your statements to the media or law enforcement damage his reputation or business interests. Defamation suits in California can be quite serious. We're talking $500,000 in damages. The number lands like a punch. 500,000. More than Jenna will earn in a decade. More than she could ever hope to pay. Are you threatening me? She asks. I'm informing you of the potential consequences of reckless accusations. Mr. Crawford has built his reputation on community service and job creation. He will not allow that to be tarnished by unfounded claims. The call ends. Jenna sits in her kitchen, watching Emma eat cereal before school. 9 years old, bright eyes, curious mind, completely unaware that her mother is being threatened by one of the most powerful men in Riverside. 36 hours after the attack, the letter arrives. Official. Stamped. Legal. Glenn Crawford is suing Jenna Brooks for defamation. $500,000. The complaint cites malicious and false allegations intended to harm Mr. Crawford's business reputation and standing in the community. Jenna hasn't made any allegations. She hasn't spoken to the media. She hasn't even posted on social media. All she did was file a police report about being attacked in a parking lot. But the lawsuit exists, and it sends a message louder than any words. Stay quiet. Disappear. Be like the 7 women before you. Jenna reads the complaint 3 times. Then she opens her laptop and starts searching for investigative reporters in the area. She finds Natalie Foster, KRVR News, Emmy winner for a series exposing corruption in the county sheriff's department. Credentials that matter. A track record of not backing down. Jenna sends an email. Attaches nothing. Just writes, I have footage of an attack orchestrated by powerful people in Riverside. I think it's connected to a pattern of intimidation against women workers. Are you interested? The response comes in 40 minutes. Meet me at Riverside Public Library. Tomorrow, noon. Tell no one. Jenna shows up 15 minutes early. Sits in the periodical section where she can see the entrance. Natalie arrives at exactly noon, mid-30s, professional attire, carrying a worn messenger bag that's seen better days. They don't shake hands. Natalie sits across from her, pulls out a notepad. Show me what you have, she says. Jenna pulls out her tablet, plays the footage. 47 seconds. 5 men. Rick's words about the boss. Her response, the takedown, the aftermath. Natalie watches without expression, then watches again. And again. Who's the boss Rick mentioned? She asks. I don't know for certain, but I have theories. Share them. Jenna lays out the pattern. 7 women. 7 quits. Rick's truck. The timing. Glenn's franchise connection. The lawsuit filed within 36 hours. Natalie takes notes. Fast. Efficient. When Jenna finishes, the reporter looks up. What about the police? Who took your statement? Lieutenant Brad Sullivan. He's been my mentor, helped me get this job. Something flickers in Natalie's eyes. Brad Sullivan. You know him? I know of him. Community hero. Veteran advocate. Untouchable reputation. Natalie taps her pen against the notepad. Which makes him either your best ally or your worst enemy. No middle ground with men like that. He's been good to me. Then let's hope that continues. Natalie closes her notepad. I need time to verify your claims. Cross-reference the women who quit. Pull traffic cam footage legally. FOIA requests for Glenn's business licenses and any complaints filed against his franchises. This could take weeks. I have 96 hours before my backup deletes itself. Security protocol. Then extend it. Can't. It's automated. Military-grade encryption. Once the countdown starts, I can't stop it without alerting anyone monitoring the server. Natalie leans forward. Who would be monitoring your personal server? I don't know. That's the problem. They sit in silence. Around them, library patrons browse shelves. Students study. The ordinary world continues, unaware that in this corner, 2 women are plotting to expose something that's been hidden for months. All right, Natalie finally says. 72 hours. That's my deadline. I'll have enough to run a preliminary story. But I need something else from you. What? Access to those 7 women. I need at least one to go on record. They won't talk. That's the whole point. They're scared. Then you need to unscare them. Because without corroboration, this is just your word against Glenn Crawford's. And he has money, lawyers, and city council connections. You have a body camera and a theory. Jenna nods slowly. I'll try. Don't try. Do. Because if Glenn is behind this, if he's been systematically targeting women to keep them silent about something bigger, then you're not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting for them, and they need to know that. Natalie stands, hands Jenna a burner phone. Use this to contact me. Your regular phone might be compromised. Don't use it to search for anything related to this case. Don't use your home computer for anything you wouldn't want read in court. And Jenna, trust no one. Not your friends, not your family, not even Brad Sullivan. Especially not Brad Sullivan. Men who arrive too quickly at crime scenes either have incredible timing or they knew the crime was coming. She leaves without another word. Jenna sits in the library for another hour, holding the burner phone, replaying Natalie's final words. Brad knew the crime was coming. Impossible. Brad is law enforcement. He's dedicated his life to protecting people. But he did arrive impossibly fast. And he did immediately suggest taking control of Jenna's evidence. And he did help her get this job working for Glenn Crawford. Connections mean nothing until they mean everything. Jenna goes home, opens her laptop, starts researching Brad Sullivan, 18 years with Riverside PD, promoted to lieutenant 6 years ago. Veteran advocacy work, speeches at city council meetings about community policing and supporting military families. She finds photos. Brad at charity events. Brad receiving awards. Brad standing next to Glenn Crawford. Multiple photos, different events, different years, Brad and Glenn shaking hands, playing golf, standing together at a ribbon-cutting ceremony for Glenn's newest franchise location. Friends, or at least friendly, which doesn't mean anything except that they know each other, that they have a relationship beyond the one Jenna was aware of. She digs deeper, finds incorporation papers for Glenn's franchises, finds board members, finds consulting firms hired for security and operations. One name appears repeatedly: Sullivan Security Solutions. Owner, Brad Sullivan. The business address is a post office box in a commercial building downtown. Jenna looks up the building directory, finds a pattern. Multiple businesses registered to the same suite, all shell companies based on her quick research, all with different names but similar structures. And one of them, one buried in a corporate filing from 2 years ago, lists Glenn Crawford as a silent partner in Sullivan Security Solutions. Glenn and Brad aren't just friends, they're business partners. Brad provides security consulting for Glenn's franchises, which means Brad has a financial interest in protecting Glenn's reputation and operations. Which means when Jenna called 911 that night, she didn't just call the police. She called someone with a vested interest in controlling the narrative. Jenna's hands shake as she closes the laptop. This doesn't prove Brad is corrupt. Business partnerships aren't crimes, but the optics are terrible. And in Jenna's experience, terrible optics usually hide terrible truths. She needs to talk to the 7 women. She needs corroboration. She needs proof that this pattern is real and deliberate. She starts with the most recent. Angela Martinez. Quit 3 months ago. Lived 2 blocks from the Burger King. Left without notice despite having rent due and 2 kids to feed. Jenna finds her working at a Target across town, approaches her during a break. "Angela," she says, "I need to talk to you about Glenn Crawford." Angela's face goes pale. She looks around frantically, as if expecting someone to materialize from the aisles. "I don't know what you're talking about," she says. "You worked for him. So do I. And 3 months ago, something happened that made you quit. I think the same thing just happened to me." "I can't." Angela's voice breaks. "Please, just leave me alone." "Did someone threaten you? Did Rick Dawson—" Angela walks away, fast, doesn't look back. Jenna tries 3 more women over the next 2 days. Same response: fear, refusal. One of them, Sandra Chen, starts crying and begs Jenna to stop asking questions. "You don't understand," Sandra whispers. "They know everything. Where I live, where my daughter goes to school. They told me if I talked, they'd make sure I lost custody. They'd plant drugs. They'd destroy me. And I believe them because I saw what they did to Rebecca." "Who's Rebecca?" Sandra shakes her head, walks away. Jenna goes home and searches for Rebecca. Finds a police report from 5 months ago. Rebecca Hale, single mother. Worked night shift at a Glenn Crawford franchise. Arrested for possession with intent to distribute. Currently serving 18 months. Jenna pulls the arrest record. Finds the arresting officer, Lieutenant Brad Sullivan. The pieces are falling into place. A pattern not just of intimidation, but of systematic destruction. Women who don't comply don't just lose their jobs, they lose everything. And the person enforcing this system wears a badge and has the power of law enforcement behind him. Jenna sits in her kitchen that night, watching Emma do homework. 9 years old, drawing pictures of butterflies and rainbows, planning her birthday party next month, living in a world where police officers are heroes and adults tell the truth. Jenna can stay quiet, accept the 2 weeks paid leave, sign Glenn's statement, let the lawsuit disappear, keep her job, keep her daughter safe, or she can fight, and risk losing everything just like Rebecca Hale, just like the 7 other women who tried to speak up and were silenced. Her phone buzzes. The burner. A text from Natalie. "Found something. GPS tracking on Rick's truck. He was at 6 of the 7 women's locations within 72 hours of them quitting. This is bigger than we thought. Meet me tomorrow. Same place. Bring everything you have." Jenna looks at Emma, thinks about the world she wants her daughter to grow up in. A world where staying quiet is safer. Or a world where standing up might cost everything, but means something. She texts back, "I'll be there." Then she opens her laptop and starts organizing every piece of evidence she has. The body camera footage, the GPS logs, the voice recordings, the corporate filings linking Brad and Glenn, the pattern of 7 women and 1 imprisoned whistleblower, and she realizes something that makes her blood run cold. The voice recorder in her vest has been running continuously for 14 months. Every conversation, every interaction, every word spoken in her presence, including conversations between Brad and Glenn that she didn't realize she'd captured. Private moments when they thought she was in the back room or outside on break. Moments when they spoke freely because they didn't know she was always recording. Jenna plugs in her vest, downloads the audio files. 14 months of material. Hundreds of hours. She creates a program to search for keywords. Rick. Women. Night shift. Problem. Handle it. Quiet. The program runs. Flags conversations. Jenna starts listening. And what she hears changes everything. Glenn's voice 6 months ago. Another one asking questions about pay discrepancies. This is becoming a pattern, Brad. Brad's voice. I'll handle it. Same as before. Rick knows what to do. Glenn. I don't want another Rebecca situation. That got messy. Brad. Rebecca was necessary. She was going to the labor board. Rick's approach is cleaner. Nobody reports fear. They just leave. Glenn. And if they don't leave? A pause. Then Brad. They will. Everyone has pressure points. Kids, immigration status, past mistakes. Rick finds them, applies pressure. They leave. The conversation continues, discusses logistics, payments, methods, all delivered in calm, matter-of-fact tones. Two men discussing the systematic terrorization of vulnerable women, like they're planning a golf outing. Jenna stops the playback. Her hands are shaking. This isn't just intimidation. This is conspiracy. Organized, deliberate. With Brad Sullivan, community hero, veteran advocate, sworn law enforcement officer, as the architect. She keeps listening, finds more. Conversations about Rick's payments, about shell companies, about moving money offshore to avoid detection, about using Brad's position to cover tracks and destroy evidence when necessary. And then, 2 weeks ago, she finds the smoking gun. Glenn's voice. The Brooks woman is asking questions, talking to the others. Brad. I know. I've been monitoring her. Glenn. Can you handle it? Brad. Already in motion. Rick's been briefed. Tonight, parking lot, after closing. Standard approach. She'll quit or she'll be dealt with like Rebecca. Glenn. No arrests this time, too visible. Just scare her enough that she runs. Brad. Understood. And Glenn, after this, we need to be more careful. 7 women in 4 months is drawing attention. We should slow down. Glenn. I'll slow down when my labor costs are where they need to be. These women want to organize, want to complain about wages. They can find other jobs. Or they can learn what happens when they push back. The recording timestamp, March 12th. 2 days before 5 men attacked Jenna in the parking lot. 2 days before Brad Sullivan arrived impossibly fast to help her. 2 days before Glenn Crawford filed a lawsuit to silence her. Proof. Incontrovertible. Recorded in their own voices. Jenna copies the files. Creates multiple backups. Sends one to her sister with updated instructions. Hides another in a safety deposit box at a bank across town. Loads the third onto the burner phone. Then she texts Natalie. I have something. Audio. You need to hear this now. The response is immediate. My office. 1 hour. Come through the back entrance. Jenna arranges for Emma to stay with the neighbor. Says she has an emergency shift. Drives across Riverside with her heart pounding. Parks 3 blocks from KRVR News. Walks the rest of the way, checking constantly to see if she's being followed. She isn't. Or at least, she doesn't think she is. Natalie meets her at the back door, pulls her inside quickly. They go to a small editing bay, soundproof, private. Play it, Natalie says. Jenna plays the March 12th conversation, then the one from 6 months ago, then 3 more spanning the past year. Each one building a case, each one revealing the scope of what Glenn and Brad have built. Natalie listens without interruption. Her face remains neutral, professional. But when the final recording ends, she sits back and exhales slowly. Do you understand what you have here? She asks. Evidence of conspiracy, witness intimidation, corruption of a law enforcement official. More than that, You have proof of a systematic exploitation network. Glenn Crawford isn't just running franchises. He's running a system designed to extract maximum labor at minimum cost by terrorizing anyone who objects. And Brad Sullivan, a sworn officer, is his enforcer. This isn't white-collar crime. This is organized criminal activity under color of law. So what do we do with it? Natalie stands, paces, thinks. We can't go to Riverside PD. Brad is too connected there. We need federal jurisdiction, FBI Civil Rights Division. They handle corruption cases involving law enforcement. And we need to move fast, because once Glenn and Brad realize you have this, they'll come for me. They'll destroy you. Or worse. Natalie stops pacing. Jenna, you need to understand the risk. These men have power, money, connections. They've already imprisoned one woman who stood against them. They've terrorized 7 more into silence. What makes you think they won't do worse to you? Because I have proof they can't erase. And because if I don't fight, Emma grows up in a world where men like this win. Natalie studies her for a long moment, then nods. All right, I'll reach out to my FBI contact. Meanwhile, I'm running the story. Tomorrow night, lead piece. I'll frame it as an investigation into labor exploitation, but I'll include enough details that anyone paying attention will know there's more to come. It'll put pressure on Glenn and Brad, force them to react, and when they react, we'll be watching. Exactly. Natalie pulls out her phone. I need you to do something for me. I need you to act normal. Go to work tonight. Don't change your routine. Don't let them know you're onto them. Because right now, they think they're in control. They think the lawsuit scared you. They think you're going to fold like the others. That belief is your weapon. The moment they realize you're not scared, that you're gathering evidence, they'll move against you. We need more time. How much time? 72 hours. That's when my story airs. That's when the FBI can move. Can you hold out that long? Jenna thinks about Emma, about the 7 women who couldn't, about Rebecca Hale sitting in prison for a crime Brad Sullivan orchestrated. I can hold out, she says. Then go home. Act scared. Act defeated. And whatever you do, don't trust Brad Sullivan. He's going to reach out. He's going to offer help. He's going to position himself as your only ally. That's how predators work. They isolate their victims, make themselves indispensable. Then they strike. Jenna drives home. Her phone rings before she reaches her street. Brad Sullivan. She answers. Jenna, he says, voice warm with concern. I heard about Glenn's lawsuit. I'm so sorry. This has gotten out of hand. Yeah, she says, injecting defeat into her tone. I don't know what to do. Listen, I want to help. Can we meet? Tomorrow morning? There are things I can do, ways I can intervene with Glenn. He and I go back. He'll listen to me. I don't know if that's appropriate. You're law enforcement. This is a civil matter. I'm also your friend, and sometimes friends help each other navigate difficult situations. 9 a.m., the coffee shop on Riverside Avenue. Every instinct screams danger. But Natalie's words echo. Act normal. Act scared. Don't let them know you're onto them. Okay, Jenna says. 9 a.m. Thank you, Brad. That's what I'm here for. See you tomorrow. The call ends. Jenna sits in her car, hands gripping the steering wheel. Tomorrow morning, she'll sit across from the man who orchestrated her attack, who terrorized 7 women before her, who imprisoned Rebecca Hale, and she'll pretend she doesn't know. Pretend she trusts him. Pretend she's just another victim waiting to be silenced. But here's what I need from you right now. If you were in Jenna's position, discovering that the person you trusted most was actually orchestrating your destruction, would you show up to that meeting? Would you risk sitting across from someone who could destroy your life with a phone call? Comment below with your answer, because what Jenna decides in the next 12 hours will determine whether she becomes victim number 8 or the woman who brings down an entire network. She goes inside, holds Emma tight, reads her 3 bedtime stories instead of 1, tucks her in with extra care. "Mom?" Emma asks. "Are you okay? You seem sad." "I'm fine, baby. Just tired. Mrs. Patterson said you had to work late again. I drew you a picture." Emma points to her backpack. "It's you wearing your camera, because you're always keeping us safe." Jenna looks at the drawing, a stick figure with a red light on her chest, surrounded by stars and hearts. A 9-year-old's vision of heroism. "Thank you," Jenna whispers. "I love it. Will you always keep the camera on, Mom, so we're always safe?" "Always." Emma falls asleep holding her mother's hand, and Jenna sits in the darkness, watching her daughter breathe, knowing that tomorrow she'll walk into a trap, knowing that the next 72 hours will either vindicate 7 silenced women or add an 8th name to the list. The body camera charges on the nightstand, red light blinking, battery full, ready. Jenna Brooks doesn't sleep that night. Instead, she reviews everything one more time. Make sure every backup is secure. Make sure every piece of evidence has multiple copies. Make sure that if something happens to her, the truth won't die with her. At 8:30 a.m., she drops Emma at school. Normal routine, normal goodbye. The school is safe. Brad wouldn't make a move there. Too public, too many witnesses. At 8:55 a.m., she parks at the coffee shop on Riverside Avenue. Brad is already there, sitting in a corner booth, 2 cups of coffee on the table. He waves, smiles. Jenna walks in. The body camera is recording. The voice recorder is active. Every word, every gesture, every micro-expression will be captured and preserved. She slides into the booth across from Brad Sullivan, the man who helped her when she needed it most, the man who mentored her through PTSD, the man who, according to recordings in her vest, ordered 5 men to attack her in a parking lot. "Jenna," he says, sliding one of the coffees toward her, "I'm glad you came. We need to talk about your future." And Jenna Brooks, Marine Corps veteran, single mother, body camera running, looks into the eyes of her would-be destroyer and says the words that will start the countdown to his downfall. "I'm listening." Brad slides a manila folder across the table. The coffee shop hums with morning activity. Students on laptops, retirees reading newspapers, baristas calling out orders. Normal life continuing while Jenna sits across from a predator wearing a badge. "I pulled some strings," Brad says. His voice carries that practiced sincerity that probably works on most people. "Glenn is willing to drop the lawsuit if you sign a mutual non-disparagement agreement. You don't talk about the incident. He doesn't pursue damages. Clean break." Jenna opens the folder. Legal documents. Dense paragraphs. Signature lines highlighted in yellow. She pretends to read carefully while the body camera captures every page. "What about Rick and his crew?" she asks. "They attacked me. What happens to them?" "They're being charged. Assault, battery. They'll face consequences." Brad leans forward. "But here's the thing, Jenna. If this goes to trial, it gets messy. Defense attorneys will dig into your background, your PTSD diagnosis, your military service. They'll paint you as unstable, dangerous, someone looking for a fight. I was attacked by 5 men in a parking lot. I know. I believe you. But juries? Brad shakes his head. They see what lawyers tell them to see, and Glenn has expensive lawyers. Rick's public defender will jump at any narrative that gets his client off. Your best move is to take the settlement. Move on. I'll even help you find a better job, something with day shifts, better pay, away from all this. The offer sounds reasonable, generous even. If Jenna didn't have recordings of Brad orchestrating the entire attack, she might actually consider it. I need time to think, she says. Brad's jaw tightens just for a moment. Then the warmth returns. Of course. But the offer expires in 48 hours. Glenn wants this resolved quickly. And Jenna, I'm saying this as a friend. You should take it. Because the alternative is a long, expensive legal battle that you can't afford and probably won't win. I've seen cases like this. The little guy almost never comes out ahead. He stands, drops a 20 on the table for the coffee. Call me when you decide. I really want to help you through this. After he leaves, Jenna sits for another 10 minutes, finishes her coffee, reviews the footage on her phone's monitoring app. Brad's micro-expressions when she hesitated. The flash of anger when she didn't immediately accept. The calculated performance of the concerned mentor. She texts Natalie on the burner. Meeting done. He offered settlement. Trying to close this fast. Response? Good. Means they're worried. Story airs abours in 48 hours. Hold the line. Jenna goes home, opens her laptop. The countdown timer shows T-minus 64 hours until the automated backup deletion. She can't stop it without triggering alerts. Can't extend it without access to the encryption keys. The clock is running, whether she's ready or not. Her phone rings, unknown number. She answers. Ms. Brooks, a man's voice. Smooth, professional. My name is Victor Kane. I'm a private investigator. I've been following your case and I think I can help. How did you get this number? Public records. I specialize in cases involving workplace harassment and assault. I've successfully represented 7 clients in the past 2 years against franchise operators who violated labor laws. Your situation fits a pattern I've been tracking. 7 clients, 7 women. The number is too coincidental. What kind of help? Jenna asks. Evidence gathering, witness interviews, building a case that goes beyond your word against Mr. Crawford's. I work on contingency. You don't pay unless you win. And based on what I've reviewed so far, you have a strong case. I'll think about it. Of course. But Ms. Brooks, time matters in cases like this. Witnesses forget. Evidence degrades. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to prove your claims. I'd like to meet. Tomorrow. Discuss strategy. No obligation. Jenna agrees to a meeting. Hangs up. Then immediately texts Natalie. Private investigator named Victor Kane just called. Says he can help. Seems suspicious. The response comes fast. Do not meet him. Checking him now. 20 minutes later, Natalie calls on the burner. Victor Kane is dirty, she says without preamble. PI license suspended in 2019 for ethics violations. Reinstated last year. Operates out of a commercial building downtown. Same building where Brad Sullivan has his consulting firm. Same suite, different unit numbers. They're working together. More than that, I pulled financial records through a source. Victor Kane LLC received payments from Sullivan Security Solutions. 3 transfers over the past year. $15,000 total. He's not investigating Glenn and Brad. He's working for them. The trap is more sophisticated than Jenna realized. Brad offers the carrot. Settlement, new job, a way out. Victor offers the alternative, help building a case, collecting evidence. But both roads lead to the same place: control of Jenna's evidence and silence. "What's his play?" Jenna asks. Classic misdirection. He approaches vulnerable women after they've been targeted, offers to help, gains their trust. Then he either sabotages their evidence or convinces them the case is too weak to pursue. Either way, they give up. And if they don't give up, he reports back to Brad about what they know, what they have, who they're talking to. He's a spy wearing the costume of an ally. The 7 women he mentioned, probably the same 7 who worked for Glenn and quit. Victor approached them after they left, helped them, which means he neutralized them as witnesses. Jenna feels the walls closing in. Brad has law enforcement authority. Glenn has money and political connections. Victor has the ability to infiltrate opposition and sabotage from within. Together, they've built a system designed to identify threats, isolate them, and destroy them before they can cause damage. "I'm still meeting him," Jenna says. "What? Why?" "Because I want to see how he operates. And because if he's reporting back to Brad, I can feed him misinformation, make them think I'm more scared than I am, more isolated, more ready to break." Natalie is quiet for a moment. "You're using yourself as bait." "I'm using their system against them. Brad thinks I'm considering the settlement. Victor thinks I'm desperate for help. They both think I'm alone. But I have you. I have the recordings. And I have 48 hours until your story airs and brings in federal jurisdiction." "Jenna, if they realize what you're doing, they won't. Because I'm going to give them exactly what they expect. A scared woman. A victim. Someone they've already beaten 7 times before." The meeting with Victor Kane happens the next morning at a neutral location. A park in downtown Riverside. Public. Visible. Plenty of witnesses. Victor arrives in a silver sedan, wearing an expensive suit that seems designed to project trustworthiness. He's 39, average height, forgettable face, the kind of person who blends into crowds and doesn't draw attention. Perfect for a spy. "Ms. Brooks," he says, shaking her hand. "Thank you for meeting me. I know this must be difficult." They sit on a bench. Victor opens a leather portfolio. "I've reviewed your case," he says. "The attack in the parking lot, Glenn Crawford's lawsuit, Lieutenant Sullivan's involvement. And I have to tell you, there's a pattern here that extends beyond your individual situation." "What kind of pattern?" "Glenn Crawford has been named in 14 labor complaints over the past 3 years. Wage theft, unsafe working conditions, retaliation against employees who report violations. Most cases settle quietly. The complainants take small payments and sign non-disclosure agreements. But I think there's something bigger happening. A coordinated system to exploit workers, particularly women working night shifts, and silence anyone who objects." Everything Victor says is true, which makes the lie more effective. "What do you need from me?" Jenna asks. "Your footage from the attack, your employment records, any communications you've had with Mr. Crawford or Lieutenant Sullivan. I need to build a timeline, establish the pattern. Then I can approach the other victims and convince them to testify collectively. Strength in numbers." "Approach the other victims? You know who they are?" "I've been tracking this for months. 7 women quit under suspicious circumstances. I've identified 6 of them. If we can get even 3 to go on record, combined with your evidence, we have a class action case that Glenn Crawford can't fight." It's a beautiful trap. Victor gets access to Jenna's evidence, gets the names and locations of potential witnesses, then reports everything back to Brad, who can move against them before they become threats. And if Jenna hands over her footage, Victor can accidentally compromise it. Digital files corrupt so easily. Chain of custody breaks so simply. I need to think about it, Jenna says. Victor's smile tightens. Ms. Brooks, I understand your hesitation, but the lawsuit Glenn filed against you, that's not going away. $500,000 in damages. Unless you have evidence that proves his malicious intent, proves this is part of a broader pattern, you're going to lose. And losing means financial ruin, garnished wages, seized assets, your daughter's college fund emptied. Emma. Of course he knows about Emma. Of course he's done research. Of course he's finding the pressure points. How do I know I can trust you? Jenna asks. Look at my track record. 7 successful cases against employers. I've recovered over $2 million for clients. I don't get paid unless you win. My incentive is aligned with yours. Those 7 cases, can I contact the clients? Get references? Something flickers in Victor's eyes. Confidentiality agreements prevent me from sharing client information, but I can show you court documents, settlements, proof of my success. I'd like to see those documents. Of course, I'll email them to you today. Victor stands. Ms. Brooks, I know this is overwhelming, but you're not alone in this fight. Let me help you. Let me do what I do best. Build cases that corporations can't fight their way out of. After he leaves, Jenna sits on the bench for another 20 minutes, watches families play, watches dogs chase frisbees, watches the normal world continue while she sits in the center of a conspiracy that's spent months perfecting the art of destroying women who won't stay silent. She texts Natalie. Victor took the bait, asked for all my evidence, names of other victims, classic infiltration. Response, good. Now he'll report back to Brad that you're considering cooperation. They'll relax. Think they're in control. Meanwhile, my story airs tomorrow night. FBI contact confirmed they're moving. Just hold on a little longer. Jenna goes to pick up Emma from school. Her daughter runs to the car, backpack bouncing, face bright with 9-year-old joy. Mom, guess what? We learned about suffragettes today. Women who fought for the right to vote. Miss Patterson said they were so brave. They went to jail and everything, but they didn't give up. That's right, baby. They didn't give up. Would you give up, Mom? If someone tried to stop you from doing what's right? Jenna looks at her daughter. Thinks about Rebecca Hale sitting in prison. Thinks about 7 women too scared to speak. Thinks about every woman who will come after if this system isn't stopped. No, she says. I wouldn't give up. Good, Emma says, settling into her seat. Because you're brave like a suffragette. That night, Jenna reviews all her evidence one final time. The body camera footage, the GPS logs, the voice recordings, the wire transfer information Natalie's source uncovered. Everything is documented. Everything is backed up. Everything is ready. Her phone buzzes. Brad Sullivan. Jenna, he says when she answers. Have you thought about the settlement? I'm still considering it. Time's running out. Glenn needs an answer by tomorrow morning. And I heard you met with Victor Kane. That was smart. He's a good investigator. He can help you understand your options. So Victor reported back already, confirmed that Jenna is talking to him, confirmed that she's considering cooperation. The trap is working both ways. He seems knowledgeable, Jenna says carefully. He is. And he's right about the pattern. Glenn has had issues with employees, but those issues get resolved. The system works. People get compensated. Everyone moves on. That's what I'm hoping for here. Resolution. Moving on. Because the alternative, dragging this through court, making accusations you can't prove, That doesn't help anyone. I understand. Good. Call me tomorrow with your decision. And Jenna, I really hope you make the smart choice. For Emma's sake. Kids need stability. They need mothers who aren't buried in legal battles and financial stress. The threat is subtle but clear. Comply or Emma suffers. It's the same pressure point they used on Sandra Chen, the same lever that broke Rebecca Hale. But Jenna isn't Sandra. And she isn't Rebecca. She's a Marine who survived Fallujah by learning that sometimes you have to walk into an ambush, knowing it's an ambush, because that's the only way to win. I'll call you tomorrow, she says. After Emma goes to bed, Jenna sits in the darkness of her living room. The body camera charges on the coffee table. Red light blinking. 48 hours until Natalie's story airs. 48 hours until FBI jurisdiction activates. 48 hours until the system Brad and Glenn built starts to crumble. She thinks about the suffragettes Emma mentioned, women who went to prison, who were force-fed, who suffered violence and degradation, who won anyway because they refused to accept that silence was survival. Her phone buzzes. The burner. Natalie. Change of plans, the reporter says without preamble. My FBI contact just informed me they need the wire transfer evidence by tomorrow morning. Without it, they can't establish federal jurisdiction. Conspiracy requires proof of financial transactions across state lines. Do you have it? No? You said your source was pulling it. My source hit a wall. The shell companies are layered too deep. We need someone with subpoena power, but we can't get subpoena power without evidence that justifies it. Catch-22. Jenna's mind races. The wire transfer is the linchpin. Without it, they have harassment, intimidation, local crimes that Brad can influence through his position at Riverside PD. With it, they have conspiracy, federal crimes, jurisdiction that supersedes Brad's authority. What if I can get Victor to show me the financial records? Jenna asks. What? How? He offered to build a case. Cases need evidence. Financial evidence. If he's working for Brad and Glenn, he must have access to their records, or at least know where they're kept. Jenna, if you push too hard, they'll know you're onto them. I won't push. I'll just ask questions, express doubts about the settlement, say I need to understand the full scope before I make a decision. Victor positioned himself as my advocate. Let him advocate. Natalie is quiet for a long moment. This is dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous, but sitting still doesn't make me safer. It just makes me an easier target. All right, but you wear the camera. You record everything. And if anything feels wrong, if Victor or Brad or anyone makes a move, you run. Straight to the nearest police station that's not Riverside PD. State police, sheriff, anyone with jurisdiction outside Brad's network. Agreed. Jenna hangs up. Texts Victor from her regular phone. I need to see the financial records you mentioned. The pattern of complaints against Glenn. Before I hand over my evidence, I need to know this is real. The response comes within minutes. Absolutely. Tomorrow morning. My office, 10 a.m. I'll show you everything. His office. The building where Brad's consulting firm operates. The location where every word will potentially be overheard. The heart of enemy territory. Perfect. The next morning, Jenna drops Emma at school with extra instructions. If anything happens, if Mom doesn't pick her up on time, call Aunt Sarah in Oregon. Not Brad, not the police. Aunt Sarah. Emma looks worried. Mom, is everything okay? Everything's fine, baby. Just being careful. Like the suffragettes? Exactly like the suffragettes. Victor's office is on the third floor of a converted commercial building. The directory lists 15 businesses. Most are consulting firms, security companies, legal services, the kind of enterprises that exist primarily on paper. Suite 302, Kane Investigations. Suite 308, Sullivan Security Solutions. 6 doors apart. Close enough to share information. Far enough to maintain plausible deniability. Jenna takes the elevator. The body camera is running. The voice recorder is active. The GPS tracker logs her location. If something happens here, there will be evidence. Victor greets her at the door. His office is small, but professional. Desk, filing cabinets, certificates on the wall. A window overlooking the parking lot 3 floors below. "Ms. Brooks," he says, "thank you for coming. I have everything ready for you." He gestures to a conference table covered with folders, documents, printouts, years of complaints against Glenn Crawford franchises, wage theft allegations, safety violations, sexual harassment claims, all settled quietly, all signed with non-disclosure agreements. "This is impressive," Jenna says, filming it all with her camera. "This is just the documented cases. I believe there are dozens more that never got filed. Women who were too scared, too pressured, too convinced that fighting back would make things worse." Victor opens another folder. But here's the key piece, the financial pattern. He spreads out bank statements, wire transfers, corporate filings, a paper trail connecting Glenn Crawford's franchises to offshore accounts to consulting firms to Brad Sullivan. "See this?" Victor points to a transaction dated March 9th. $47,000 from BK Holdings LLC, that's Glenn's shell company, to an account in the Cayman Islands. Then from the Caymans to Sullivan Security Solutions. Then from Sullivan to cash withdrawals over the next week. Small amounts, under $10,000, to avoid reporting requirements. Classic money laundering structure. Why would Glenn pay Brad $47,000? That's the question, isn't it? Victor leans back. "My theory is that Brad provides security services, handles problems, makes threats go away. And he gets paid for it through a laundering scheme that's designed to avoid detection." Everything Victor is saying is true, but he's saying it as if he discovered it, as if he's the investigator uncovering corruption, not the accomplice helping to hide it. "This is the evidence you need," Victor continues. "With this, we can prove conspiracy. We can show that Glenn and Brad aren't just employer and police officer. They're partners in a criminal enterprise. The FBI will have to investigate. And when they do, Glenn's empire collapses." "Can I take copies of these documents?" Jenna asks. "Of course. That's why I brought you here, to give you everything you need to win." Victor stands, walks to a filing cabinet. "I'll make duplicates. Give me 5 minutes." He leaves the room. Jenna hears a copy machine start in another office. She's alone with the evidence. Alone in the office of a man who works for the people she's fighting. Alone with bank statements that prove the conspiracy she's been documenting for weeks. It's too easy. Victor is too helpful. The evidence is too perfectly organized. Jenna scans the room with her camera. Then she notices something. The bank statements have timestamps. The wire transfer from March 9th shows a timestamp of 11:15 a.m. But there's a problem. The Cayman Islands are 1 hour behind Pacific time, which means if the transfer happened at 11:15 a.m. Pacific, it would show as 10:15 a.m. in the Caymans, but the Cayman account shows 11:15 a.m. local time. The documents are fake, or at least partially manipulated. The transaction might be real, but the timing is wrong, which means someone created these papers recently, backdated them, made them look authentic while introducing subtle errors that would compromise their admissibility in court. If Jenna takes these documents and uses them as evidence, defense attorneys will find the errors, will prove tampering, will argue that all of Jenna's evidence is fabricated, will destroy her credibility and vindicate Brad and Glenn. Victor returns with copies, hands them to Jenna. "Everything you need. The smoking gun." "Thank you," Jenna says, taking the papers. "This is exactly what I was looking for." She leaves the building, walks to her car, drives 3 blocks, then pulls over and texts Natalie. "Victor gave me fake evidence, documents designed to discredit me if I use them. The trap is more sophisticated than we thought." Response: "Jesus, they're not just silencing victims, they're poisoning the well, making sure anyone who fights back destroys their own case. Don't use those documents. Don't reference them. Pretend they don't exist." Already planning on it. But now we know their endgame. They let me collect evidence, let me think I'm building a case. Then when I go public, they prove the evidence is fake. I'm discredited. They're vindicated. System preserved. Which means we can't rely on Victor's documents at all. We need independent verification of the wire transfer. My FBI contact is working on it, but it takes time. How much time? 12 hours, maybe less. Story airs tonight at 6 p.m. If we don't have clean evidence by then, I have to pull the financial angle. Run with what we have. Your testimony, the voice recordings, the pattern of victims. Still powerful, but not federal jurisdiction powerful. Jenna looks at the clock. 11:30 a.m. 6.5 hours until Natalie's story airs. 6.5 hours until everything accelerates. Her phone rings. Brad Sullivan. She answers. "Jenna," he says. His voice has changed. Harder, less friendly. "I need you to come to the station. Now." "Why?" "Rick Dawson's lawyer filed a motion. Claims you provoked the attack. Claims you've been harassing his client's family. I need your statement." "Brad, I haven't done anything." "I know. That's why you need to come in. Clear this up officially. It'll take 30 minutes, then it's done." It's another trap. Get Jenna to the station. Get her separated from her evidence. Get her into an environment where Brad controls everything. Cameras, recordings, witnesses, procedures. "I'll come in this afternoon," Jenna says. "I have an appointment right now." This afternoon might be too late. The motion is being heard at 2 p.m. If you're not here to counter it, the judge might issue a restraining order, might even revoke your bail conditions. "I was never arrested. There are no bail conditions." A pause. Then Brad's voice drops lower. "Jenna, you're making this harder than it needs to be. I'm trying to help you. But if you refuse to cooperate with law enforcement, that looks suspicious. That looks like someone with something to hide." "I'll be there at 1 p.m., Jenna says. "With a lawyer." "You don't need a lawyer. This is just a statement." "Then a lawyer won't be a problem." She hangs up, immediately calls Natalie. "Brad's trying to get me to the station, alone, without counsel, using a fake court motion as leverage. Don't go. He'll arrest you on some pretense, hold you while they search your home, confiscate your evidence as part of an investigation. By the time you're released, everything will be gone." "What do I do?" "Go public, right now, before they can move against you. I'll push the story up. Run it at noon. Emergency broadcast. Once it's out, once there's public attention, they can't make you disappear quietly." It's 11:30. You have 30 minutes to get a story ready. "I've been ready since yesterday. I just needed your go-ahead." "Jenna, once I do this, there's no going back. Brad and Glenn will know you're the source. They'll know you've been gathering evidence. They'll move against you with everything they have. Then we'd better make sure the story is airtight. Run it, Natalie. Burn it all down. 28 minutes later, Jenna sits in her car outside Emma's school. Her phone streams KRVR News. Natalie's face appears on screen. Breaking news this hour. A KRVR investigation has uncovered allegations of systematic labor exploitation and witness intimidation involving multiple franchise restaurants in Riverside County. We warn you, some of the details in this report are disturbing. The story unfolds, carefully, methodically. Natalie doesn't name Brad or Glenn directly. Not yet. Not without ironclad proof. But she lays out the pattern. 7 women, 7 quits, 7 cases of suspected intimidation, a franchise owner with political connections, a law enforcement official with financial ties to the franchise network. She shows Jenna's body camera footage, the attack, the 47 seconds of 5-on-1 violence. She interviews labor rights attorneys who confirm the pattern fits organized exploitation. She displays public records showing the spike in complaints against Crawford franchises. And then she makes the ask, if you or someone you know has experienced workplace intimidation, harassment, or threats while working night shift positions at franchise restaurants in Riverside County, please contact our investigative team. Your identity will be protected. Your story matters. The story runs for 8 minutes, then repeats in the noon newscast, then gets picked up by regional affiliates, then starts trending on social media. Within an hour, Jenna's phone explodes with calls. Brad, Glenn's lawyer, Victor, unknown numbers. She ignores them all except one. Natalie, FBI is moving. Agent Warren Blackwell, Civil Rights Division. He'll contact you within the hour. Do not go home. Do not go to the station. Find a public place with witnesses and stay there until Agent Blackwell arrives. Jenna drives to the Riverside Public Library, the same place she first met Natalie. She parks in view of security cameras, goes inside. Sits in the reference section where the librarians can see her. Her phone rings. Unknown number with a Washington, D.C. area code. Ms. Brooks, a man's voice says, "This is Special Agent Warren Blackwell, FBI Civil Rights Division. I've reviewed the KRVR news report and materials provided by Ms. Foster. I'd like to meet with you immediately to discuss potential federal civil rights violations." Where? The library where you're currently located. I'm in Riverside on unrelated business. I can be there in 15 minutes. How do I know you're really FBI? Smart question. When I arrive, I'll show you credentials. You can call the FBI Los Angeles field office to verify my identity. The number is publicly available. Don't meet with anyone who can't provide verifiable credentials. He arrives in 12 minutes. Tall, late 40s, wearing a suit that's seen better days and carrying a worn briefcase. He shows his badge and ID. Jenna photographs them, calls the LA field office, confirms his identity. Ms. Brooks, Agent Blackwell says once they're seated in a private study room, "I need you to tell me everything. From the beginning. Every detail you remember. Every piece of evidence you have. And I need it fast because right now, Lieutenant Brad Sullivan is preparing to move against you." You're probably wondering the same thing I am right now. Can Jenna's evidence really bring down a decorated cop and a city council member? Can one woman with a body camera actually win against a system designed to silence her? Drop your prediction in the comments, because in the next few minutes, we're about to witness the most critical moment in this entire story. The moment when everything Brad and Glenn built over years of careful planning either holds strong or crumbles completely. I promise you, the revelation coming next will make you want to rewatch this entire story from the beginning. Jenna tells him everything. The attack, The 7 women. The voice recordings of Brad and Glenn planning her assault. The fake evidence Victor provided. The wire transfer pattern. The offshore accounts. She plays the audio recordings, shows the body camera footage, displays the GPS logs proving Brad arrived impossibly fast. Agent Blackwell listens without interruption, takes notes, asks clarifying questions. When Jenna finishes, he sits back and exhales slowly. Ms. Brooks, what you've documented here is one of the most comprehensive cases of corruption under color of law I've seen in 15 years with Civil Rights Division. But I need one more piece to make federal charges stick. The wire transfer. Exactly. Interstate financial transactions in furtherance of criminal conspiracy. That's the hook that gives us jurisdiction. Ms. Foster's source hit a wall getting clean documentation, but I have subpoena power. I can get the real records. I just need time. How much time? 72 hours. Maybe less if I push. But here's the problem. The moment Brad realizes you've talked to federal agents, he'll start destroying evidence. He'll wipe computers, shred documents, transfer money again to bury the trail. We need him to think he's still in control. Still winning. Can you do that? You want me to keep pretending I'm scared? Keep letting him think I'm about to break? I want you to survive the next 72 hours. Because men like Brad Sullivan don't accept defeat quietly. When cornered, they get dangerous. And you've just backed him into a corner with a live news broadcast. As if on cue, Jenna's phone buzzes. Text from Brad. We need to talk, face to face, tonight. She shows it to Agent Blackwell. He reads it and frowns. Don't respond yet. Let him stew. Meanwhile, I'm putting you in protective custody. Not official, not on any books. But one of my agents will shadow you. You won't see her, but she'll be there. If Brad or anyone approaches you aggressively, she intervenes. What about Emma? Your daughter is the priority. I'm sending 2 agents to her school right now. They'll coordinate with the principal. No one takes Emma except you or someone with your explicit approval. Brad Sullivan has demonstrated willingness to use family as pressure points. We won't give him that opening. Agent Blackwell makes calls, coordinates with his team. Within 30 minutes, federal agents are positioned around Emma's school. Another agent, a woman in civilian clothes, settles into the library 2 tables away from Jenna, pretending to read. Now, Agent Blackwell says, we wait for the wire transfer documentation. But while we wait, I want you to help me identify the 7 women Brad and Glenn targeted. I need to interview them, get their testimony, build the pattern proof. Jenna provides everything she remembers. Names, addresses from old HR records she photographed months ago. Employment dates. Rick Dawson's truck locations correlated to their quit dates. One more thing, Agent Blackwell says. The woman you mentioned, Rebecca Hale, the one currently serving time for possession with intent to distribute. Brad Sullivan was the arresting officer? Yes, but the women I talked to suggested the drugs were planted, that Rebecca was silenced because she threatened to go to the labor board about wage theft. If that's true, if Brad Sullivan fabricated evidence to imprison an innocent woman, that's a federal civil rights violation. Deprivation of liberty under color of law. That alone carries 20 years. I'll start the process to review her case. If there's any indication of misconduct, we can move for immediate release and expungement. For the first time since this started, Jenna feels something like hope. The system might actually work. Justice might actually happen. The women Brad and Glenn silenced might actually get vindication. But then her phone rings. The school. Emma's principal. Ms. Brooks, the principal says, voice tight with stress. I'm calling because a man just arrived claiming to be Emma's uncle. He has no ID. He's not on our approved pickup list. But he's insisting you sent him. He's becoming agitated. What man? Describe him. Late 30s, average height, wearing a gray suit. He says his name is Victor Kane. Jenna's blood runs cold. Do not release Emma to him. Do not let him near her. There are federal agents in the building. Find them. Now. She hangs up, looks at Agent Blackwell. Victor Kane just tried to take Emma from school. Agent Blackwell's expression hardens. He makes a call. Short. Clipped. Suspect attempting child abduction at Riverside Elementary. Agents on site authorized to detain. 2 minutes later, his phone rings. He listens, nods, hangs up. Victor Kane is in FBI custody. He tried to run when agents approached. They recovered a burner phone with texts from Brad Sullivan. Detailed instructions on taking Emma, using her to pressure you into destroying evidence. Your daughter is safe. Kane is facing federal kidnapping charges. The trap has failed. Victor exposed. Brad's communications documented. The conspiracy cracking in real time. Jenna picks up Emma from school herself, holds her daughter tight, explains nothing except that there was a confusion. Everything's fine now. They're safe. That night, they stay in a hotel. FBI arranged. Secure. Anonymous. Agent Blackwell assigns 2 agents to rotating watch outside their room. Jenna doesn't sleep. Instead, she reviews everything again. Makes sure every backup is accessible. Makes sure every piece of evidence is documented. Because tomorrow, Brad Sullivan will realize that his carefully constructed system is collapsing, and desperate men do desperate things. At 6:15 a.m., Agent Blackwell calls. "We have it," he says. "Clean wire transfer documentation, subpoenaed directly from the banks. $47,000. March 9th. BK Holdings to Cayman account number 4721. Cayman account to Sullivan Security Solutions. Sullivan Security to cash withdrawals matching dates when Rick Dawson and crew were paid. It's ironclad. We have federal conspiracy charges." What happens now? Now I arrest Brad Sullivan and Glenn Crawford, and Rick Dawson and his crew get federal charges added to their state charges. But first, I need you to do something for me. What? There's a town hall meeting tonight, 6 p.m., city council session. Glenn Crawford is scheduled to speak about franchise expansion. He's going to make his usual speech about job creation and supporting women workers. I want you to be there. I want you to wait until he's finished. And then I want you to stand up and tell your story. In public, on record, in front of 2,000 people. Why? Because Brad and Glenn have built their power on silence, on intimidating women into disappearing quietly, on making sure the community never connects the dots. Your story, told publicly, with witnesses, breaks that power. And when you finish, I walk in with arrest warrants, on camera, in front of everyone. No backroom deals, no quiet settlements, public accountability. Jenna thinks about the 7 women who couldn't do this, about Rebecca Hale sitting in prison, about Emma asking if she would give up like the suffragettes wouldn't give up. "I'll be there," she says. The town hall meeting is packed, standing room only. Cameras from KRVR and other stations, reporters, concerned citizens, people drawn by Natalie's report who want answers. Glenn Crawford sits on the city council platform. He looks confident, composed, like a man who believes the storm will pass because storms always pass for people with his resources. Brad Sullivan stands in the back, in uniform, watching the crowd. His eyes find Jenna, hold her gaze for a long moment. She sees the calculation in his expression, the threat, the promise that this isn't over. Glenn's turn comes. He approaches the microphone, gives his prepared speech, 8 minutes about economic development and job creation, about how his franchises employ 200 people across 3 counties, about his commitment to workers' rights and safety. It's polished, practiced, the performance of a man who's given this speech dozens of times. When he finishes, the mayor opens the floor for public comment. Jenna stands, her legs shake, her voice catches, but she walks to the microphone anyway. "My name is Jenna Brooks," she says. The room goes quiet. 3 weeks ago, I was attacked in the parking lot of the Burger King on Industrial Boulevard. 5 men. Weapons. They said their boss sent them because I talked too much. She plays the body camera footage on the town hall screen. 47 seconds of violence. The room gasps. Glenn's face goes pale. Brad moves toward the exit. "But that attack wasn't random," Jenna continues. "It was orchestrated, planned, part of a system designed to silence women who question wage theft, unsafe conditions, and systematic exploitation. 7 women before me experienced the same thing. They quit rather than fight because they were scared, because they had children to protect, because they didn't think anyone would believe them." She shows the GPS logs. Rick's truck at 7 locations. The pattern of intimidation. And the person coordinating this system? The person who sent Rick Dawson and his crew after me? The person who terrorized 7 women into silence and put an 8th woman in prison on fabricated charges? She turns, points. Lieutenant Brad Sullivan, the man who positioned himself as a community hero while running a criminal enterprise designed to exploit vulnerable workers and destroy anyone who threatened the profits of his business partner. Glenn Crawford. The room erupts, shouting, gasps. Reporters surge forward. Brad tries to leave, but finds federal agents blocking every exit. Agent Warren Blackwell walks down the center aisle. He carries arrest warrants. FBI credentials clearly visible. "Brad Sullivan," he says, voice carrying across the chaos. "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit civil rights violations, witness intimidation, deprivation of liberty under color of law, and federal kidnapping charges related to the attempted abduction of a minor. Glenn Crawford, you're under arrest for conspiracy, wire fraud, and racketeering. You have the right to remain silent." The arrests happen on camera, in front of everyone. Brad tries to resist. Claims FBI has no jurisdiction. Demands to speak to his lawyer. Agent Blackwell cuffs him anyway. "Your jurisdiction ended the moment you used your badge to terrorize innocent women. Welcome to federal prison." Glenn tries a different approach. Calm, reasonable. "This is a misunderstanding. I had no knowledge of any criminal activity. Lieutenant Sullivan operated independently." "Mr. Crawford," Agent Blackwell interrupts, "we have recordings of you planning attacks on employees. We have wire transfers in your name. We have testimony from Victor Kane, who's currently cooperating in exchange for reduced charges. You don't get to play ignorant when we have your voice on tape discussing payment schedules for enforcing silence." The arrests take 15 minutes. Then Brad and Glenn are led out. Past cameras, past reporters, past 2,000 witnesses who now understand exactly what happened in their community while they weren't paying attention. Jenna stands at the microphone, trembling. Natalie approaches, puts an arm around her. "You did it," Natalie whispers. "You actually did it." The next morning, the story is national news. KRVR's footage goes viral. Major networks pick it up. Marine veteran exposes police corruption becomes the headline. Jenna's body camera footage plays on loop. Within 48 hours, 3 of the 7 women agree to testify. Then 4, then all 7. Once they see Brad in handcuffs, once they realize the system that terrorized them is broken, they find their voices. Rebecca Hale's case gets reviewed by the FBI. Within a week, Agent Blackwell finds evidence that Brad planted the drugs during a traffic stop. Rebecca is released. Charges expunged. She walks out of prison after serving 5 months for a crime she didn't commit. The trial takes 8 months, but the verdict is swift. Brad Sullivan, 12 years federal prison, conspiracy, civil rights violations, deprivation of liberty, witness intimidation. He'll serve at least 10 before parole eligibility. Glenn Crawford, 12 years, conspiracy, wire fraud, racketeering. His franchise empire is dissolved. Assets seized. Used to create a victim compensation fund. Rick Dawson and his crew, 6 to 8 years each. They cooperated, named others in the network, exposed similar operations in 2 other counties. Victor Kane, 3 years probation, testified against Brad and Glenn, lost his PI license permanently. But it's not a perfect victory. 4 of the 7 women choose not to testify despite the protections offered. They're too broken, too scared, too convinced that the system will fail them again. The 8th woman, Sarah Park, dies by suicide 2 months before trial. She left a note explaining she couldn't face testifying, couldn't relive the trauma, couldn't trust that justice would actually happen. Her death haunts Jenna, reminds her that some wounds don't heal with guilty verdicts, that some victims can't be saved even when the perpetrators are caught. 8 months after the arrests, Riverside City Council passes Jenna's Law, legislation protecting whistleblowers in service industry positions, mandatory cameras in closing shift locations, anonymous reporting systems, penalties for employers who retaliate against workers who report violations. It won't stop all abuse, but it creates barriers, makes silence harder to enforce, gives future victims tools that Jenna had to create herself. The body camera that recorded everything? It's now in the FBI's evidence archive. But Jenna keeps the red light, the blinking indicator that captured 47 seconds of violence and months of conspiracy. She mounts it on her wall, a reminder of what one woman with proof can accomplish. Emma understands now, not the full details, but enough. Understands that her mother fought back, that she didn't accept silence as the price of safety, that she stood up when 7 others couldn't. Like the suffragettes? Emma asked after the verdict. Exactly like the suffragettes, Jenna answered. 247 women enroll in Jenna's self-defense classes. A business she starts with the book Advance from the 3 publishers who want to tell her story. She teaches them combat techniques, but more importantly, she teaches them documentation. How to gather evidence, how to build cases, how to protect themselves not just physically, but legally, because the next Brad Sullivan is out there. The next Glenn Crawford is exploiting workers right now. The next system of silence and intimidation is operating in some other town with some other victims. But those future victims now have a template, a proof of concept, evidence that the system can be beaten if you're careful enough, strategic enough, brave enough. On the 1-year anniversary of the arrests, Jenna returns to the Burger King parking lot on Industrial Boulevard. The franchise is closed, purchased by a worker cooperative that's converting it into a community center. She stands where Rick Dawson and 4 others attacked her, where the body camera captured everything at 11:47 and 13 seconds p.m., where one kick started a chain reaction that toppled a criminal conspiracy. Emma stands beside her, holds her hand. "Mom," she says, "why did you keep the camera running, even when it was dangerous?" Jenna looks at her daughter, thinks about the question, about the answer she's been working toward for a year. "Because silence protects power," she finally says. "But one voice with proof can shatter the entire wall. And sometimes, baby, you have to be that voice, even when you're scared, even when the wall looks too big to break. You keep the camera running because the truth matters, because justice matters, because the women who come after you deserve better than silence." Emma nods, understands as much as a 10-year-old can understand. They walk back to the car. But before they leave, Jenna takes one last look at the parking lot, at the place where everything changed, where she could have stayed quiet, could have taken Glenn's settlement, could have signed Victor's papers, and disappeared like 7 others before her could have, but didn't. Her phone buzzes. Text from Natalie. "Next story. A warehouse, a manifest, a 72-hour countdown. Interested?" Jenna smiles, types back. "Tell me more." Because there's always another story, another conspiracy, another group of powerful people convinced they can terrorize the vulnerable without consequence. And now there's Jenna Brooks, Marine veteran, single mother. The woman who taught an entire system that silence isn't survival, it's surrender. The body camera red light blinks one final time in her memory. 47 seconds that changed everything. One kick that dropped 5 men, but the truth that buried the one who sent them? That echo will last far longer than any prison sentence. 3 years later, Emma sits in a college lecture hall studying criminal justice. She wears a small red light pin on her backpack, a replica of the body camera indicator that saved her mother's life. When classmates ask about it, she tells them the story, not the sanitized version, the real one. About fear and courage existing in the same breath. About how her mother taught her that safety isn't found in silence. It's built through the uncomfortable, terrifying act of speaking truth to power. The Burger King building is now the Brooks Community Center. Inside, Rebecca Hale teaches legal literacy classes to service workers. Angela Martinez runs job training programs. Sandra Chen coordinates a hotline for workers facing intimidation. The 7 women who couldn't testify, 4 of them work there now. Not public-facing roles, not testimonies, but presence. Contribution, reclaiming space in a community that failed them. Sarah Park's name is engraved at the entrance. A reminder that survival takes many forms, that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is simply endure another day. That justice for some doesn't erase the cost paid by others. Jenna visits weekly, not as a hero, as a member. Because the work isn't finished when the verdict is read. It's finished when the next generation doesn't need body cameras to feel safe.
You are not alone. Someone wants to hear you. Share your story. Thank you for watching to the end. Please like and subscribe to Stereo.